And we should be live.
We have to do the smiling thing because people think we're not with it.
It just seems like a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, you're coming in. It's like welcoming someone into your house. You don't open the door unless they're selling you something.
Right.
With a shitty attitude.
Mm-hmm. You want to play a sound to make sure that we have this?
I love playing sounds.
Because we have started. Good choice.
First one at my fingertips.
We have had a situation happen where the sound was not working and the people weren't hearing the sound, so.
All right.
There we go.
Good choice. So let's talk to everybody in the chat really quickly. Before we start the show. Hello, Peter S. Good to see you, everybody. Looks like there's already action in the chat room before we even got here.
I know. Awesome.
I feel neglectful doing all the other shit we were doing prior to going live.
Yeah.
How is everybody doing? Should I give the rundown of kind of what we're going to talk about? Or?
Sure, yeah.
So, for this evening, while you prepare any questions you have prior to us going live, we're going to talk about, we got a few voicemails about policing. We had a conversation on last episode about just police being aggressive and radical and, you know, just the same thematic conversation that happens again and again and again because police departments across the country are not getting their shit together. We're going to talk about that, a call from someone who is in the policing business. Daria from New Hampshire called, and she has a question about criticizing conservatives. I think Brittany has some Pew research. I got to find my... Oh, I don't even have the drop anymore. That we're going to go from there to a brief discussion kind of juxtaposing the behavior of heroes. In the wake of the Southwest tragedy where the woman died on the flight, they interviewed that guy who tried to save her life or went back there and helped. And it's just a stark difference between how he was acting and the guy who kind of saved the day in Nashville, the James Shaw Jr. guy. Just they have a kind of a different approach about being a hero.
Very much so.
So we want to talk about that. And then, of course, with Dollemocracy, we're going to talk about the Kellyanne Conway thing that happened this morning. How that kind of went sideways. The James Comey memo was released. And Anderson Cooper brings up an awesome point about one thing that I really wanted to talk about, and that is Donald Trump's lie that he didn't stay the night in Russia in 2013, and he lays out the evidence and the proof that he did, which obviously brings the question of why is he lying? And then some wacky evangelical action.
Shocking.
Donald Trump is the chosen one, literally the chosen one.
And cannot be criticized.
And we got to take care of biz. So it's going to be a good show.
And it's the 400th episode.
And it is the 400th episode.
Can you believe
it?
It's amazing.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
And we'll save it for the show.
Okay.
Brittany Page. Save it for the show. So
we want to say before we start, those of you watching, make sure that you follow us on Twitter at I Doubt It Podcast, at Brittany E Page, at Dollemore. Okay. And I think that those links are somewhere. Maybe I'll send them right now so that you guys can just easily access them.
Just did.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. Good job.
I'm on top of it.
Yeah, you are. So hi to everyone who's saying hi. Thank you so much for being here. And Skylark has a nickname that she has suggested for the audience. The Dalla Scholars.
I don't know if I like it because I don't know if I want my name on it.
Oh.
I'd rather it be like the Doubters or something like that. We could talk about this when we get going, but it's kind of the one mistake I really made when we started the show. I wish I didn't have my goddamn name on the show.
Yeah, that's something that you have always kind of regretted.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit of regret.
Yeah.
But now it's what it is, and we're 400 episodes deep. There's no changing it now.
Mm-hmm. Why is the camera blurry?
Is it blurry?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Let me fix it. Hang on. Well, I'm glad we're not live. Live. I mean, we're live, but not.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Someone says they are drinking coffee and smoking some weed.
All right.
It's the way to do Sunday.
That is the way to do Sunday, right?
Yep. Oh.
There we
It
go.
looks better on your screen, but not on the screen here.
But it'll adjust.
Okay.
Apply. So now it's fixed. Now it'll be fixed right there the entire time. I hope. All right. Well, we're going to get started. Thanks for joining us as always. We will not be in the chat because we will be doing this. And not real good at multitasking. I can barely get done what we do.
Right.
So let's get started. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. Episode 400 of I Doubt It with Dollemore. I am your host, 400 times, Jesse Dollemore. And seated across from me, the lovely, talented, and scholarly lady who has put up with me for over 400 episodes, including bonus, Brittany Page.
400 episodes.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable.
Well, listen, I mean, there's lots of shows who have done more than 400 episodes, certainly. But when we started this, I think we had a pretty fair understanding that it might have fizzled after like 10 or 12 episodes. Because we didn't know whether we'd be good at it.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't like do test episodes.
No.
We bought the shit equipment, some of which we're still using.
Yeah.
And we just did it.
Gave it a try.
And, you know, very quickly, more quickly than I expected, we...
Figured it out.
Well, we also, like, people started listening.
Yeah, that too.
So 400 episodes. It was over 4 years ago. March 11th, 2014 was the day. And it's been an awesome experience.
Yeah.
So we're here to announce that this will be our last episode. I'm teasing.
No.
So what would you say, if anything, have you, Brittany, learned, or what's kind of your takeaway after 400 episodes?
That's a good question.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Finally, I asked a good question.
I think the biggest thing that's coming to mind for me right now is probably, I think it's always been difficult for me to decide how much of like my personal life to talk about. And
Yeah, sure.
there are some things that we have decided that we aren't going to talk about on the show. And that is for privacy concerns, but also for safety concerns at times because of the threats from crazy people that you get.
And they are many.
Right. And so there are parts of my life that we don't talk about here, but there are some parts that I have opened up about, like my background, and
namely because there might be people out there listening or watching on the live stream that you were raised in a white supremacist household.
Right.
Yeah.
And also talking about some of the just general chaos in my childhood home and things like that.
Yeah.
Which are things that I normally don't talk about in my life because it's not really relevant. Unless something comes up and then it's relevant, then I'll talk about it. But generally I don't. And I think being on the show has helped me with being able to talk about some of that stuff.
Sure.
And I guess this is present in my mind because I recently saw a Twitter thread from a college professor who tweeted about being a first-year college professor or a first-generation college student who became a professor. So she's been very successful, made it to the top, right, achieved her goals. And she had a student come into her office hours and was asking her questions. And at some point they asked, "Are you a first-generation college student?" The professor said yes. And the student said, "How did you do it?" and started crying.
Yeah.
And then they kind of had this exchange. And I've seen a lot of academics reposting this, saying that they always struggle with how much of their personal life to share with their students and where that boundary is. And I've been thinking a lot lately about how most of us are walking around with these life experiences that we feel like we can't talk about. Whether they be past traumas or just any kind of chaos, but how beneficial it is when you do share those things with people. And
why do you think that is?
Why are we all walking around not talking about it?
Yeah, those of you who are, reticent to share, what is it that makes it that way?
I think for me, I like being able to pass as a normal person.
Air quotes, normal person.
Yeah, like someone who hasn't lived through those experiences. And then when people find out, they're surprised, and that always happens for me. And so I think just the fear of the stigma being placed on you that, oh, you went through those things, here are all of these judgments that are going to come with it.
Does it make you feel good when they're surprised?
Yeah.
Because that means that you've been doing a good job of
air quote. No.
Yeah, air quote. Doing a good job of living that good life.
Yeah.
Or appearing to have your shit together.
Right. But when I do talk about it on the show, I hear from people who have said that it has meant a lot to them and that they have felt more comfortable opening up about their own experiences.
Yeah.
And so that's been really powerful for me, because every time I talk about personal things, I feel anxiety. Every time. But it makes me feel better when people in the audience reach out and say that it meant something to them that I did that. So I think right now that's kind of the biggest takeaway for me. And a lot of that is because of the audience. So thank you to the audience.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
It means a lot to me. So what about you? What has been your takeaway, or what have you
Well, I mean,
learned?
listen, I'm a different thinker than I was 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I prized libertarianism, really, really romanticized it like it was a workable solution for our society, for our government, for our policy. And through having an open mind to new information, I've come around, and I'm more in love with my country than I ever have been, but I'm also more open to looking square at the blemishes, the flaws, the shitty history. Yeah. And being okay with that. Knowing that we have a bright future ahead of us if we all work together toward it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, the takeaway would be my own personal growth.
Right.
And I hope that the audience not only has appreciated it, but hopefully we've assisted or aided, helped in some small way with some small percentage of the audience to come along with me, growing at the same rate, in the same way.
Yeah. So I guess our answers are the same, but in different ways, where it relates to personal growth. And I think, how could you not have personal growth when we have these conversations and people write to us from all over the world, which is still so amazing to me.
Yeah, it blows me away.
And share their thoughts. And it really is, when we get messages from people, even if we don't read them on the show, we read everything that is sent to us. We listen to everything that is sent to us, even if it's not on the show. And it causes us to reflect and change. And so it's just been a really great experience, and it wouldn't be that without the audience, because we would just be sitting here in a circle jerk. And I mean, you never know.
It's the smallest possible circle jerk is two people. The smallest possible circle jerk.
Yeah. So it's been overall great. There's been some downsides with like the threats and the bad stuff that comes along, but generally good.
Yeah. It is. I'm thrilled, and I love our audience.
Yeah.
And I wanted to add the other aspect that I think I've learned, and it kind of plays with the other, no longer romanticizing libertarianism. It still creeps in, and I have to kind of fight it off.
Yeah.
But it's empathy. I strive to be a kinder person. I strive to understand the struggle that I have not gone through and that I never will go through. I really strive, and I fail fucking all the time. I fail.
Yeah.
I am a miserable asshole sometimes, but I really, really try. And you've been very instrumental in helping me to be more less assholey. So that's good, and I appreciate that too.
Yeah, well, that's always a work in progress, I think, for everybody. For everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
It takes work.
Yeah.
It does take work.
Yeah.
I'm not naturally, maybe I am naturally because I'm a crier, I'm an emotional guy, but
well, it's
that's
hard.
certainly a takeaway for me.
Yeah, it's hard to step outside of our own experience, right? I think that is just the default, to view things through our own experiences.
Yeah.
And that's something we try to practice a lot on the show, is taking into consideration what others have experienced and making sure that there's room for that as well.
And I do, I enjoy having an audience that feels comfortable enough to check us, to correct us, to even when they're wrong and they think they're correcting us, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because the mantra on this show for 4 years has been one of moving the conversation forward on an episode by episode basis.
Right.
And if a conversation isn't about things you agree about, who gives a shit about that?
Yeah.
We want to talk about things that are hard to talk about.
That's how you move it forward.
Moving it forward. So anyway, thank you all for joining us.
Seriously.
For this 400th episode, and as many episodes as you've listened to over the course of the past 400, and our 63 or 64 bonus episodes. It is... Brittany was right. Without you, none of this would be possible. We'd have no interest in live streaming, and we'd have no interest in live call-in shows. It would be the smallest circle jerk possible.
Exactly.
And nobody wants a part of that.
So I think now is the perfect time to do the drawing.
Oh, you want to do it now?
Yeah, because
right.
We are doing the Patreon contest, and we had...
Here's the pick hat. The real cool upside down fedora.
Yeah, we had this contest for all current Patreon supporters, regardless of the amount, that if you wanted to co-host the show with us, to co-host the show with us, then you responded to this message and you said you were in.
For Patreon supporters.
Yeah, and so we took everyone's names, wrote them on a little piece of paper here, and now we're going to do a drawing and see who the winner is. It's so exciting. Are you going to...
I'm picking, I'm reading.
Okay, here we... You're holding the hat, you're picking the name.
Okay, you hold the hat.
Okay, I have to do something. I have to take some...
You're walking me through it. You're talking about it.
Okay, and now Jesse is mixing up the papers, and he's really getting in there to make sure it's real random.
I'm really getting in there. Oh, these are all bound together. Holy... Here, wait.
Okay, and just choose the one. Okay, and we have one. We have one.
We have a winner.
And who is it going to be?
Catherine Walters.
Catherine Walters.
Catherine Walters.
Awesome. Well, that's exciting.
You're the winner, Catherine.
Cool.
So, get a hold of us.
Well, we'll get a hold of you.
Why do we got to do all the work?
Because that's how this works. We'll send you a message and figure out the scheduling. And if you're in the local area, then you can come to the studio and do that. If you're not, we'll do a Skype thing. And also, we want to say, this is not the last time we're going to do this. We haven't decided how often we're going to do it, but this is definitely something we're going to do again. So if you are so bummed that you didn't hear your name just now,
we'll do it again.
We're going to do it again, yeah.
Unless Catherine comes on the show and murders us, and then there's no show.
Yeah, that...
So, Catherine, please, be cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to some voicemails. Last time on the show, we talked about policing, as we often do, especially in the wake of shootings, unjustified police brutality instances across the country. And we have a very a wide-ranging audience filled with all kinds of different people who have all kinds of different life experiences and occupations.
Right.
Even police officers.
Yep.
Hey, Jesse, Brittany. It is Robert, a.k.a. Ranger Bob from Orange County. And I want to weigh in because I'm in law enforcement, and I just had a couple of observations to talk about this issue, into the psychology of the cops. A lot of it these days is interesting. It has to do with age. A lot of times the way cops are so scrutinized to get hired, they have to be so squeaky clean. We're not hiring people who have any life experience because they're getting people who've done nothing. And, they can't really relate to people. We've hired, I know a guy from my academy that he couldn't understand why people drank and got drunk and hung out because he was 21 and he'd never done it. So that's one part of it. And, of course, education. A lot of police departments don't require any education. Fortunately, my department, which is a resource agency, and we do require education, which helps, and we usually get older candidates. And then, of course, the mission, they lose sight of who they're working for or why they're doing the job, and there's this fear that's pervasive that the media puts out and people put out, and this institution, you got to keep yourself safe, and you got to go home at night, which is true, but you can't live your life in fear. And when you're operating in fear, then you're more likely to do harm to somebody else. And then another point of it is expectations. I mean, typically when you pull somebody over or you get in some situation, you have this thing in your mind that, oh, that's the bad guy. This guy, he's speeding or ran that red light because he's a dick. But usually it's a soccer mom that's not even paying attention. So it's kind of something completely different than you expected. I've had a knife pulled on me, but it wasn't some big, mean, nasty white supremacist who I have arrested and actually was cooperative. The person who pulled the knife was a short Hispanic lady that was, 200 pounds. Something you just didn't expect, and I didn't want to shoot her, and so I didn't. And long story, and I can tell you about that later. But ultimately, it wasn't what you expected. So, things are just not as cut and dry as you would think. And a lot of the sheriffs around here, they spend a lot of time in the jails with inmates, and police officers deal with bad guys, and they lose empathy. And I can see it in myself. A lot of times you lose a lot of empathy for a lot of these homeless people and drug addicts that don't want help. Over and over you deal with the same people that, they don't want help, even though you've offered opportunities for them. Another point is, a lot of cops just hang out with cops, which I try not to. And it's sort of this group mentality of just hanging out with cops, and it is a problem. And also specifically talking about that Starbucks incident, I mean, that's not even usually an arrestable offense, trespassing. If you caught somebody trespassing on somebody's property and they ask them to leave, and then you show up on scene and you ask them to leave, unless they're like resisting and they won't leave, why would you arrest these people? It makes no sense. At the most, it'd be a citation. I don't even understand how that ended up being that. So, I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, of course, we're from California. I mean, there's incidents out here, but we definitely have a little better attitude, I would hope. Although some of the, sheriff's deputies that I know are, definitely coming from the jail. They're not very nice to people, and I don't understand that. And I try not to be that way, and I try to have empathy and try to, conduct myself with respect, to give people respect that, they deserve. And, I always know that I'm probably not going to get the first shot off if somebody starts shooting at me, but I don't want to be the guy to start shooting first, especially if it's unjustified. So, it's a fine line to walk, and you got to, think of what you're doing. And luckily I work in a park, and I do deal with most of everything that sheriff deals with, but, my mission is a bit different because I work for a resource agency. And my job is to educate and as well as protect. And keep people safe and that sort of thing. Anyway, that being said, I love the show. I always listen, and y'all take care. Semper Fi, Jesse. Brittany, you're the best part.
Love the show. Brittany's the best part.
That was like a dramatic end.
A little sneaker there.
Yeah. I loved that call because I have no idea about any of this, so that was really educational. Particularly the part about the recruits being very young, and not having education. Two experiences. Education can bring a lot of life experience that can help inform your worldview to make you more empathetic. And also years lived can help that too.
For sure.
So if they...
Just a chance at more life and more experiences.
Yeah. So the fact that they tend to be younger, tend not to have education, that is a little concerning. And I wonder if that does have an effect on how they treat people, because there isn't a lot of understanding there, and how people come from different situations that lead them to different places. And what you started the show talking about, empathy, right? Having empathy for those different experiences and different places that people end up.
I think my belief about police and when the bad ones, and there are too many bad ones, that there needs to be ingrained in these people, men and women both, who are cops, servant leadership. You have to be called to service. You're not the overlord of the population for whom you serve. You are there to protect and serve.
Right.
You are a public servant. And so when you do what I say because I said it, you see these fists, they're going to fuck you up. Those types of things, which we hear all the time.
Yeah.
Those are problems.
Yeah, and how do you weed that out? I mean, how do you recognize those people and either fix that problem or get them out before they end up in trouble, doing something terrible? I don't know what the solution is. I mean, and I wish that he would have given more information about the process of what they have to go through, because I don't know. Like what kind of testing, what kind of requirements.
They have pretty in-depth psychological tests that they could run. Corporations do it all the time, where you take a test and then you're just weeded out. Like, no, you're not the kind that we're looking for.
Right.
And you have no idea, but there's a certain... psychographic measure or whatever, that you don't fit that profile.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a certain profile that they've been able to identify that is the best type.
Yeah.
So the other thing that he mentioned that I thought was awesome, and that is about being afraid. Because look, somebody's pulled a knife on me, but it wasn't just because you have a justification to pull a trigger and kill someone.
Right.
Why that should be an absolute last resort. If you really feel like your life is in danger, then it needs to be done.
Yeah,
but only as a last resort.
Yeah, you could even hear that coming through. And when he said that he probably won't be the one to shoot first, that kind of attitude.
That's also his job, is not to shoot first, walking around just with a hair trigger, ready to kill everybody.
Right, but I wonder what is different about his training or his experiences that has led him to, or his heart that has led him to that place, because we see so many police officers that apparently don't feel that way.
Well, look, listen, I think you have two types of bad cops out there. Well, many more than probably just two types, but two types I'm going to talk about. One is the cop who is that just prick who tells you, I'm going to blow your fucking head off, Alton Sterling, in that case.
Yeah.
Who's an angry guy, who wants to be the boss, who's insecure at his most base level. And then you got a guy like Officer Yanez with the Philando Castile case, who was pissing his pants afraid. He was so afraid that he just blew him away in the face of Philando Castile doing everything he was supposed to do. He followed the orders. He let the cop know, hey, look, I just want to let you know so you don't find out later and freak out. I have a gun.
Right.
And I have a permit for it. Give me your permit. Goes, go, oh, I'm going to kill you. Mm-hmm. So there's two types. There's the type that we really don't want on the streets, which is that too tough guy. And then someone who's such a lily liver, such a little afraid of everything, afraid of their own shadow, that they're firing off in the dark because they're afraid of the dark.
Yeah.
Listen, these are big questions that need big solutions, far bigger than us, far bigger than this show, far bigger than the conversation we're having right now.
Right.
But we would love to know what everybody thinks.
Yes.
657-464-7609. Of course, you can always email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubtit@dollemore.com. We have another voicemail, and this one is, it's interesting because we had a conversation similar to this much earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Just, personally.
Mm-hmm.
This is Daria talking about criticizing conservatives.
Hey guys, it's Daria from New Hampshire. So I kind of fell behind listening to you guys. I went back and listened to the episodes I missed, and I kind of had this thought. So there's been a lot of conversation about conservatives feeling left out and conservatives feeling like their issues are not mentioned and how they're constantly heckled and how they're constantly, shut down from speaking and expressing their opinions. And normally when I hear this argument, and we all hear it all the time, I just sort of don't listen to it. I just kind of disregard it as whatever. But we've learned from the 2016 election that's a bad idea because those same voters who felt left out, who felt like they were not being listened to, who felt that they were ignored, the majority or whatever, those people, voted for Trump. They felt strongly enough to vote for Trump, and they, moved the election, and Hillary Clinton was blamed for not listening to those people's concerns about not being listened to and being left out. So that made me wonder about this whole argument about how conservatives are not listened to in the media or how their viewpoint is not expressed or how they're left out of the dialogue. And I don't know how true that is. And I'm not posing a rhetorical question. I actually don't know if that's a true argument. I want to know what your thoughts are because I don't know if it's legitimate. Is that a legitimate argument? Is that a real concern or a real insecurity that the conservative movement should worry about? Or is that just a pretext for them to criticize the media and criticize fake news and criticize college campuses for being too liberal? I don't know. I'm actually curious if that's something that is something that, because if they do feel left out and they do feel like they're being, excluded from politics and from social media, I mean, that can't feel great, and I'm sure that's going to be a political impact. So, but yeah, I'm just curious about how true that actual argument is, and if it's something that I should be, even if I'm on the other side, if I should be sympathetic towards it, or if I should just keep disregarding it as, oh, it's just, a pretext for them to bitch about the media. But anyways, love you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. And yeah, stay great. Bye.
So this is a great question, and I think it will make for great conversation, especially with how the listeners feel about this, and I would love to hear from them as well. I think that Daria is right to want to have a balanced approach here, because we don't want to alienate people further. We want to invite them into the fold, right?
Sure. But
I think we could be talking about different things, because a lot of times you hear people saying that what they're afraid of basically is being criticized for their conservative beliefs, right? That they're afraid that that it won't go well when they reveal their beliefs. And for some reason, they talk about this as though that's oppression. That they're going to be criticized for what they say, or that they're going to be labeled or stereotyped. This is going to be oppression to them. They're going to have their voice removed. Their rights are being taken away. And there was actually a funny article in the Washington Post written by Alexandra Petrie, and she does hilarious articles. I don't know if she does one every day. It seems like it. She's just full of funny jokes all day. But it is called "It Is Too Bad I Have Been Silenced." And it doesn't reference Kevin Williamson specifically, but it is basically about him. He's the guy who got fired from The Atlantic over his abortion comments. So this is just like a little bit of what she wrote. It is with a heavy heart and profound regret for the current state of media in America that I have dragged my laptop to a Starbucks to pen this column. But I think it is important that we understand the degree of oppression we are up against. I regret to say I have been silenced. I expressed an opinion, and people criticized that opinion. And since that day, my voice has never been heard again. And this is kind of how I feel when I hear these comments, right?
Yeah,
I just want to read one more part of it. Quote, anyone who has read my published works knows I understand what oppression is. Oppression is when you write something and then people online become upset. I am paying the price each day, an unthinkable toll. And I feel inside as though a terrible weight has broken my body and made it impossible for me to exist in public spaces in safety. Or rather, some people yelled at me on Twitter, which is very much the same. I ought to call the police. Every interaction I've had with the police has been pleasant.
Very funny.
So this is kind of how I feel, and I try to balance it because, yes, they should not be silenced. We want to have a conversation. At the same time, are they victims of oppression because they get criticism?
I mean, really, on the scale of what oppression is, having somebody say, yeah, that's a dumb idea. Oh, my God, I'm oppressed. Get the fuck out of here.
Right.
Also, conservatives are in control right now. Conservatives run the White House, which means they run the executive branch of the government. And they have good majorities in both the Senate and the House.
Yeah.
So shut the fuck up about your oppression. Listen. If you're a liberal and you're giving a ration of shit to a conservative about what they believe, that's okay. Now, I think certain things are a non-starter. We shouldn't have a conversation about racism in this country and certain policies of the Republican Party that lend themselves to oppression of people of color. That's a no-go. LGBTQ rights. That's a non-starter. We're not even going to have the conversation about whether or not trans people can serve in the military. Fuck off. But I think immigration policy is up for debate. Even taxation. And, there's a lot of things. How we address the healthcare problem in this country, not all of it is worthy of scorn. There's conversations. Look, I think they have a lot of bad ideas. But there's no better way to combat those bad ideas than with better ideas.
Right.
So some things should be talked about, addressed, worked through.
Yeah.
And some things, they need to be shamed about.
Yeah.
It's not a yes or no.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to hear from college students if they have experienced this where conservatives they've somehow talked to someone and they've expressed that they're afraid to talk in class. Yeah. I know in my cohort in grad school, there was a Trump supporter. He voted for Trump. And everyone would talk bad about him behind his back.
Behind his back.
Yeah. And one time in class, we were talking about the election. I think it was the first class back after the election, and everyone was kind of mourning. And he announced that he had voted for Trump. And it was very awkward, but I was like, oh, so this is new information. You voted for Trump, and I kind of opened it up. Let's talk about it. I want to have a conversation about it rather than just talk about you behind your back. And
that's classic Brittany Page right there.
I think that a lot of what happens on college campuses is that they talk about you behind your back, probably.
Yeah.
But our students, getting so angry with you expressing a conservative viewpoint that you're fearing for your safety, I don't know, right? Unless you're like Milo or something.
Well, listen.
But I don't know how genuine that fear is for conservative students on campus, that they really feel like they can't express opinions in class without being in trouble, right?
Yeah, well, give me a moment when the minority just really oppressed the majority. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
And listen, if you're a college student and you believe that you're the type that compares two men having sex to a man having sex with a dog, then you need to be fucking shamed. You need to be treated like a piece of shit who's a bigot.
Yeah, and by the way, I want to say that that person in my cohort, he was not ostracized. He was one of the favorites. He was a very outgoing, sociable person, even after he revealed this information. So it wasn't as though he was an outcast once everyone found out the truth. It was...
dun, 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 dun.
It was... Yeah, okay, you did that.
Yeah.
And people are probably going to continue to talk behind your back, but you're not going... There's no threat. You're fine. Your safety, your well-being.
Yeah.
You're fine. And I know this is just anecdotal one experience that I had, but whatever. I thought I'd share it.
Thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome.
That's so good.
We did a fist bump, everybody.
Fist bump. So listen, the other thing, thank you both for the calls.
Yes.
We appreciate it very much. Again, 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubt@dollemore.com. We listen to every single voice memo, every single voicemail. We read every single email. All of that is awesome. We appreciate helping us move the conversation forward. So there was last week the Southwest airline thing where the engine partially exploded and shrapnel went through the window and it broke a window and the cabin depressurized and a woman got partially sucked out and some passengers helped to pull her body back in. I don't know if she had deceased yet, but in the wake of that, the media, obviously it's a big story. They're going to rush to. I mean, she's the first fatality on an American airline since 2009, I believe. It's a long time. Air travel is phenomenally safe, ridiculously safe. Well, they went and interviewed this guy, and I want to juxtapose his reaction about all of the hero talk against what happened in Nashville today.
Mm-hmm. At the Waffle House.
At the Waffle House with the shooting.
Where 4 people were killed, I believe.
And James Shaw Jr., he did save the day.
He was an unarmed man,
That's
we want
right.
to say, that had a moment and was able to take the gun from the shooter in the Waffle House and through a little bit of a struggle, get the gun away from him, throw it away, and then get him out of the Waffle House. And he, as far as I know, right now is still, they're still looking for him, the shooter.
So I'm going to play a 2-minute clip of James Shaw Jr. being asked, peppered with questions about being a hero, and really they're trying to drive this home. And he rejects the notion out of hand.
I'm from Nashville, my whole life, born and raised here. Went to high school, college here. I work here right now. I work for AT&T. 29 years old. I have a 4-year-old daughter. And I think I'm a pretty cool guy to be around.
Do you have any sort of training in anything like this before? Did you know you had this in you?
Yeah, I knew I had it in me, but I haven't had any specific combat training. It's just, I had to fight my daughter every night so I can get her, put her to bed. But I just knew it was me or him or that type of scenario. So I chose to go with what I wanted to go with, and it worked.
Did you think about your daughter in that moment?
I didn't think about my daughter. So on my Instagram and Facebook, everybody's calling me a hero, but I want people to know that I did that completely out of a selfish act. I was completely doing it just to save myself. Now, me doing that, I did save other people, but I don't want people to think that I was the Terminator or Superman or anybody like that. It was just, I figured if I was going to die, he was going to have to work for it. So I rushed him, and it actually worked out into my favor. So I actually didn't think about my daughter until I got into the ambulance, and one of the paramedics asked me about myself, and I told him I had a 4-year-old daughter, and that's when it really kind of hit home.
Yeah, talk about that. And now that it's kind of setting in a little bit more, you put your life at risk, and you got a little girl.
So if I didn't put my life at risk, I'm probably not here. Like I didn't know that he had extra magazines in his coat pockets, but when I seen the barrel down, I mean, you can shoot at the ground all day. That's not going to really hurt anybody. So that was my opportunity, and I went for it.
So I love this man, and I'm so impressed by him, and it's very refreshing to hear someone talk the way that he is, because it's so different from what you normally hear when someone is in this situation and they have stopped a tragedy. He is saying, listen, I'm not the Terminator, I'm not Superman.
Yeah.
In our language, I'm not Jason Bourne. I had a moment of opportunity, and it was me or him, and I took it. And I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to save everybody, you know, all of these things. He's just being honest. And I think that for anyone who's been in a traumatic situation, you understand what he's saying, that it's like a light switch. That's how fast it goes.
Yeah.
And you have to instantaneously make a decision right then about what you're going to do. And so there isn't a lot of thinking going on, right? I'm going to do this to save everybody.
It's
I'm
fight or
going
flight.
to, yeah, it's you're making a decision. Bam.
Your adrenal gland goes to work, punches in an extra little dose of adrenaline, and it's fight or flight. You're either going to run away and make it, or you're going to fight back when you're cornered. And in this case, he was forced to fight back and make it work.
Right. James Shaw Jr. And I hope that he gets the recognition that he deserves. As much recognition as the good guy with a gun gets, right? Because he was unarmed.
Unarmed.
All he had was himself, and he grabbed the barrel of the hot gun, burned his hand. He got shot. It grazed his arm.
Oh, really? Is that what that was from?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And so he needs to get recognition, especially from people in those communities that always trot out those stories. But what is so profound about this is how different it is from the guy on the Southwest flight, for example, that helped pull the woman in that was being sucked out of the plane. And he was a firefighter. And he was interviewed and gave his perspective on what his call to action was.
We give all the glory to God, just being here right now. The ability to speak before y'all. God put me in this position for a reason. He gave me this platform, and I'm forever grateful for that. There was a family that lost a loved one. And I feel for her family. I feel for her 2 kids, her husband, the community that she lived in. I can't imagine what they're going through. But I'm thankful that my family's here. We're standing strong. We've had some emotional ups and downs, but God is good, and He's carrying us through.
I'm going to stop it there. Mm-hmm. There's another minute, but it's all the same kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
This bothers me.
Did he say the servant's heart line yet?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Well, that's okay. But that was kind of the key for me. So just remember that he said God created in him a servant's heart.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't.
That's all right.
It frustrates me.
I know. I see that.
All glory to God. A woman is dead. A mother is dead. Mm-hmm. A wife is dead. 2 children are now motherless. But all glory to God. He's thankful. Oh, I know that woman's dead and her family's life is ripped to shreds. But I'm thankful that he gave me this platform today, y'all. Thankful my family is here and not dead like her.
It's a very strange reaction to me. And I think that when people hear this, they think, oh, he's being so humble. But I don't think that. I think that James Shaw Jr. is being humble when he says, I didn't think about it. I just act. This is what happened.
Well, the other thing is, and I should have let the goddamn clip play, but he says that, well, you know, I'm not special. Any of the great, awesome firefighters that I work with, because he was a firefighter, that any of them would do it because they're great people, which is like saying, well, I'm a great person, just like all the other great hero firefighters. I mean, maybe I'm just a little bit quick to get pissed off about this kind of thing. Maybe. It could be. I'd like to know what the audience thinks.
Yeah.
But in the wake of a tragedy like this, when a family is devastated, and you're on national TV thanking God that you're alive, it just seems tasteless, you know?
Yeah, and that's why I felt it was so refreshing with James Shaw Jr. that he went out there and it was just so genuine. And that's what I mean. Like, juxtaposing these two clips, he just is so humble.
Yeah.
And what he did is still profound. What he did is still amazing.
Both men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's just such a difference in the reaction to it and the recognition of their role in what they did.
Yeah.
So are you still pissed off?
Yeah, of course I'm still pissed off. Glory to God. Listen, glory to God would have been an awesome line had everybody been safe.
Yeah.
But when someone died, but you got to live, it's not glory to God. It's, wow. Why? Why does their family need to be in turmoil? But mine, hey, I get to live another day. Praise you, Jesus. It just, I think it's hurtful. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Support for I Doubt It with Dollemore comes from generous, engaged, intelligent, and good-looking listeners like you by way of Patreon. Your support on Patreon for as little as $1 a month helps keep the show going and move the conversation forward one podcast at a time. If you would like to join the ever-growing family of supporters, please visit patreon.com/I Doubt It with Dollemore.
Harry
Harry
is our latest Patreon supporter.
Thank you very much. That is awesome.
Yes.
Welcome to the Patreon family, like we like to say.
Yes.
Listen, we are, like Brittany said, we're going to be doing that contest in another couple, maybe 3 months. So you want to get on board, help support the show, help produce the show. Patreon's the way to do it. You can also support the show through what?
Nothing.
Oh. You can also support the show through Amazon, dollemore.com/Amazon. Make a purchase there. That would be fantastic. Every little bit goes a long way towards supporting the show. And if you're going to spend your money anyway at Amazon, why not help support your favorite show filled with news and ridiculous comment. Catherine, you are the winner. Thank you again.
So much. We're very excited.
That is awesome. And moving on again.
Dollemocracy. Facing down pessimistic politics with realistic optimism.
So this morning on CNN, Kellyanne Conway...
This was intense.
It really went from 0 to 1 million with no warning.
Yeah, it was very dramatic.
The phrase, that escalated quickly, really rings a bell here.
Yeah.
Well, she was being interviewed by Dana Bash, and at the end of the interview, Dana Bash says, hey, listen, I got one more question for you. What's going on with your husband? He's been tweeting a lot of negative stuff about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah, and the reason she asked the question is because it is something that people are talking about. His tweets get retweeted by news anchors because everyone is kind of wondering, wow, this is weird. Kellyanne Conway's husband is openly criticizing Donald Trump.
Yes.
And she's the counselor to the president.
Yeah.
She works very closely to the president while her husband is tweeting negative things about Donald Trump.
And
it's very strange.
He's not just some random, like, ambulance chaser attorney. He's a big deal in Washington. He's well known in these Republican circles.
Yeah.
So he's not just like her random husband that no one really knows.
Right.
We're almost out of time. I just want to ask you one question that a lot of people are asking me, probably you too, and that is, what is up with your husband's tweets? Your husband is a very well-respected lawyer, and he's been sending some tweets that have been critical of the administration. Just an example, in response to a tweet he saw saying President Trump's aides are reluctant to speak for him because he contradicts them later. Your husband wrote, "So true, it's absurd."
He writes a lot of things that are also supportive, and he writes a lot of things about corgis and Philadelphia Eagles and sports, too. But the fact is, well, two things I'll say to you. Number one, that, again, that woman who lost the election, whose name I never say on TV anymore, is wrong. That women, I think she said white women, have to listen to their the men in their life to form their own political opinions. Wrong again, lady. Number two, it's fascinating to me that CNN would go there, but it's very good for the whole world to have just witnessed that it's now that it's now fair game what people's how people's spouses and significant others may differ with them. I'm really surprised, but in some ways relieved and gratified to see that. That should really be fun.
No, I actually, first of all, I would ask you that if you were a man and
no,
your wife
wouldn't.
were 1,000% I would.
No.
And it's not about
There's a
that.
different
It's about questioning, publicly questioning what you are doing for a living with regard to your boss. And it has nothing to do with your gender.
No, it has nothing to do with my spouse. And
right, that's why I'm just asking.
Oh, no. You just brought him into this. So this ought to be fun moving forward, Dana.
Okay.
We're now going to talk about other people's spouses and significant others just because they either work in the White House or at CNN. Are we going to do that? Because you just went there.
Yes.
CNN just went there. Look, differences of opinions.
By the way, this isn't critical. I'm just asking
about. Of course it was. It was meant to harass and embarrass. But let me just tell you something.
Absolutely not.
Let me just tell you something. By definition, spouses have a difference of opinion when adultery is happening. More. By definition, spouses have a difference of opinion when one is, draining the joint bank account to support things that maybe the other disagrees with. So this is a fascinating cross the Rubicon moment, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Well, that certainly was not intended to cross any Rubicon. It was actually intended to be somewhat lighthearted about the fact that we are all grown-ups who have different opinions. But I'm sorry that you took it that.
You said I've got to ask you a question that's on everybody's mind.
It is. I'm sure you hear it too. It is, and it is hard to have two adults in a situation like this, but it is unusual.
I'm sorry, what does that mean?
It is unusual.
I'm sorry, it's hard for whom? I'm sorry, back it up.
It is hard. It is hard.
Who are the two adults? My husband and my husband. My point now you're talking about my marriage again?
I'm not talking about your marriage.
You
Kellyanne,
my husband.
Kellyanne, here was my whole point in this.
It's hard for whom?
Is that you are a professional working for the President of the United States. And your husband is a very well-respected lawyer. And my point is that we don't often see, in fact, I don't remember the last time we saw somebody working for the president in a high-profile position when their spouse is saying critical things about them. That is all. That is all.
Well, that, A, is not true. There are other family members of people who work at the White House who certainly don't support the president privately and publicly. But I will tell you this, and there are people who have been in his administration who worked for Democrats or gave money to Democrats. But all that aside, that really is meant to divert attention from, again, the big issues that America cares about. But like I said, CNN chose to go there. I think that's going to be fascinating moving forward. And don't deny that when you just said it must be difficult. I do want you to clarify, though, for the whole worldwide audience, and in fact for me, since you raised me, it's, quote, difficult for whom to have two adults?
No, my point only is that
difficult for my children who are probably watching you right now, because it's not hard for them.
Well, I didn't say
they've already seen a double standard for their mother for 2 years.
It is not about gender. I don't want to have this conversation. You know that I don't believe that it's about gender.
No, it's not about gender. Hold on. It's not about gender. There's been a different standard for me than there have been for other people. And we bite our tongue plenty because I work for the people of this country, United States government, the presidency, and the president of the United States. So there's plenty that I don't say. There's plenty that I don't tweet.
Absolutely. I'll just give you because you went back here. Because you went there. You were always invited back here. Because you went there, I'll just give an example because you asked. Andrew McCabe. The president went after Andrew McCabe for something that his wife ran as a Democrat, and that had nothing to do with the president.
No. The president knew something early that everybody else is now finding out. The president has excellent instincts, and he knew.
But he didn't
Jim
say
Comey
that.
And Andrew
he talked
McCabe,
about his wife.
You don't know that he didn't say that. Yeah, he knew that Andrew McCabe could not be trusted. And look what happened just this week. Andrew McCabe, it's admitted now that he lied 4 times, at least 3 under oath, Dana. Criminal referral just this week because he lied about leaking to the media. This is the number 2 at the FBI.
Anyway, and then they kind of go off the rails there on the McCabe thing.
Mm-hmm.
But what in the hell happened there?
Yeah, I think the part that really sticks out for me is the weird, threatening comment that Kellyanne Conway made.
It was meant to harass and embarrass, but let me just tell you something.
Absolutely not.
Let me just tell you something. By definition, spouses have a difference of opinion when adultery is happening. More. By definition, spouses have a difference of opinion when one is, draining the joint bank account to support things that maybe the other disagrees with.
What cryptic bullshit is that?
And Dana talked over her there, so I don't know if you heard the first part, but she said, by definition, spouses have a difference of opinion when adultery is happening.
Yes.
And then went on to talk about joint bank accounts and one person draining.
Right.
What is she talking about? And the weird thing is that Dana didn't say, what the hell are you talking about?
Was it about? Because Dana Bash's ex-husband is John King, who's on CNN.
Right.
The white-haired guy.
Yeah.
Was that like a dig at face-to-face with Dana Bash? Or the problem is that no one's writing about this.
Yes.
It's the most cryptic, bizarre goddamn thing of the interview.
Right.
And no one's writing about it. What does that particular moment mean?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because that is threatening bullshit right there.
Yes.
This is going to be fun, she says.
I know.
This is going to be fascinating going forward. Escalating. Are you talking about my kids? Are you talking about my kids? No, you crazy freak. No one said anything about your kids. Quit being a maniac and calm down. Dana Bash should have had the wherewithal to treat her like Jake Tapper treated Stephen Miller that time.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen, calm down.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly, because I think she was probably caught off guard by her reaction a little bit, and trying to reassure her that she didn't mean to offend her, but probably just trying to be too nice in the situation.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, this is a relevant question, and we've had this conversation. Is this something that she should have been asked? And I mean, if Kellyanne Conway wasn't who she is, then probably not, right? It's not a big deal to ask someone about their spouse, because what does it matter? They're not their spouse. They don't have the opinions that their spouse has. They're not responsible for what their spouse is tweeting, But Kellyanne Conway is the counselor to the president. She is representing him on CNN. She's representing his positions, what he thinks on things. She's speaking on behalf of the president.
Right.
While her husband, who is prominent on Twitter and elsewhere in his profession, is tweeting negative things about him.
Yeah.
In addition to corgis, apparently.
Well, the other thing is that Kellyanne Conway works for a dick, works for Donald Trump, who tweets things about Ted Cruz's wife. Unflattering pictures of her.
Right.
Who brings the mistresses and accusers of Bill Clinton to a debate with Hillary Clinton.
Right.
He's chief among the guilty if this is a bad thing to do.
Well, so is Kellyanne Conway, though.
She did the same thing, attacking Hillary Clinton based on Bill Clinton's shitty behavior.
Right. She feels that she can do this because any kind of criticism that anyone from this administration makes of the media will be supported by that base.
Yeah.
And so they can go out and say, can you believe what she asked Kellyanne Conway? Look at fake news CNN, blah, blah, blah. And everyone will just eat it up.
Yeah, well, they'll act like, oh, yeah, that was way out of line. Was it?
Yeah.
Because it didn't seem way out of line. It seemed pretty in line.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the days coming forward, we will have some answers about exactly what the fuck she was talking about, because that is...
Well, I know. Is she going to roll out some campaign against Dana Bash now?
I don't know.
This is going to be fun. What?
She's a real ominous figure.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
So the other thing that happened this week is the Comey memos were released by the Justice Department, by the FBI, at the behest of the Republicans in Congress. I don't know what they thought was going to happen, that they were going to reveal some awesome treasure trove of bad, damaging information against James Comey, that it's going to make Donald Trump look like he's in a good light. Well, that is not what happened. In fact, one of the things that I don't think is getting enough press, it's getting some because the clip I'm getting ready to play is Anderson Cooper, but Donald Trump was emphatic with James Comey that he didn't even stay the night in Moscow in 2013. So there's no way he could have had the pee-pee time with the hookers in the Ritz-Carlton or whatever. It's just impossible, everybody.
Yeah.
So Anderson Cooper lays out here very well the facts that he absolutely 100% did, and that Donald Trump is, no surprise, a sickening liar who, now I'm editorializing, likely a little P-tape.
Allegedly?
Oh, yeah, let me...
Do you have an allegedly drop?
I do.
Allegedly.
There we go.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
So, let's... we get back to the board. See what you do? You try to make the show better, and then I look like an asshole.
And then I throw everything off.
More now on the newly released Comey memos. In two of the memos, President Trump pushes back on claims that he could have been compromised by Russian prostitutes, as alleged in the infamous Steele dossier, when he visited Moscow for the Miss Universe pageant in November of 2013. According to Comey's notes, the topic came up during a private White House dinner just a week after President Trump was sworn into office. Comey writes that the president insisted the claim by Steele was a total fabrication. Comey also says the president told him that he had, quote, spoken to people who had been on the Miss Universe trip with him, and they had reminded him that he didn't stay overnight in Russia for that. He said he arrived in the morning, did events, then showered and dressed for the pageant at the hotel, didn't say the name of the hotel, and left for the pageant. Afterwards, he returned only to get his things because they departed for New York by plane that same night. Now, according to Comey, the president repeated that claim a little more than a week later. Comey writes, he then explained, as he did at our dinner, that he hadn't stayed overnight in Russia during the Miss Universe trip. Keep it honest, there is evidence the president spent at least one night in Moscow. We found social media postings, other photos, and a video from different events in Moscow that prove it, actually. There's also testimony on Capitol Hill from Mr. Trump's former bodyguard that contradicts the president's claim. I just want to show you the timeline. Trump arrived in Moscow on November 8th, 2013, according to a book written by journalists Michael Isikoff and David Korn about Trump's dealings in Russia. Here's a Facebook posting from that day that's Mr. Trump at the Nobu Moscow sushi restaurant posing with Russian-Azerbaijani pop star Emin, the son of the pageant's host. It seems he did stay the night because the very next day, Saturday, November 9th, Mr. Trump went on Twitter and wrote, I'm in Moscow for Miss Universe tonight. Picking a winner is very hard. They are all winners. Total sellout of arena. Big night in Russia. Less than an hour later, he added, I was just given a great tour of Moscow. Fantastic, hardworking people. City is really energized. The world will be watching tonight. It seems it was a busy Saturday for Mr. Trump. According to Bloomberg, that very same day, he was back with the pop music star Emin, starring in a cameo role for one of his music videos. Take a look.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Emin? Emin, let's get with it. You're always late. You're just another pretty face. I'm really tired of you. You're fired.
Well, later that day came the big event. The reason he was in Moscow, the Miss Universe pageant was held. Here's the video he took part in at the after party. That's him with the newly crowned Miss Universe. Not clear whether Mr. Trump spent a second night in Moscow or flew home directly after the parties. But the next night, November 10th, Mr. Trump tweeted, I just got back from Russia, learned lots and lots. Moscow is a very interesting and amazing place. As for Mr. Trump's former and longtime bodyguard, how he plays into all this, last November, Keith Schiller testified before the House Intelligence Committee. According to Republican and Democratic sources with direct knowledge of the testimony, Schiller told lawmakers about guarding Trump's hotel room in Moscow for a few minutes before he turned in for the night. But he did so to deny that Trump met with any prostitutes, saying that a Russian offer to send women up to the room was rejected earlier in the day, and that he and Mr. Trump laughed about it while walking back to his hotel room. The claims made by the president to Comey about not spending the night may have no significance, could have been a mistake or even a meaningless lie, not meant to hide anything, but the claim, it's clear, itself is false.
Why would he lie? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. CNN isn't doing some crack job of research finding this out. If you don't think that Robert Mueller already knows and has a timeline of Donald Trump, even using his Twitter account as verification, then you are sorely mistaken, because Robert Mueller is doing his due diligence and taking care of biz related to this. But it really does beg the question, why lie? Why be so emphatic that, oh, no, he's protesting a little too much?
Exactly. I also think, to your point about what Mueller already knows, that talking point of, well, we haven't heard anything yet. No one's coming out. If they know something, we would know by now. No, that's not how this works.
That is not how this works.
And it's so strange how everyone says that so confidently, like they understand how the world works. Relax.
They understand how the world works.
Take the back seat. You don't get it, okay?
Yeah.
That's not how things work, right?
Yes.
It's very frustrating.
So, again, more is going to come out of this Comey memo.
Mm-hmm.
It really was it's not a surprise, because at every step the Republican Party has proved themselves to be woefully just defunct in logic and understanding of strategy here, because this backfired just like the stupid Republican House Intel memo did.
Mm-hmm.
It's just ridiculous. So I guess that's a good segue, moving on to the other ridiculous thing of the day.
This is my favorite.
This is going to be the new theme song for evangelical Christianity and the stupidity that they practice on a daily damn basis.
Well, this clip is particularly terrifying because they're now using threats to get people to stand by Donald Trump.
It's not that Donald Trump is all that perfect of a guy. We all know he's not. And we know that he's not necessarily perfect in every way that we would like. That's not how God works. He works through the ones he chooses.
Right.
We don't choose them.
No.
All we have to do is recognize them.
Yeah.
And when you recognize a chosen one, and you have the discernment to know that they've been chosen and know that that's the will of God, then your life will be blessed.
Yes.
And if you come against the chosen one of God, okay, you are bringing upon you and your children and your children's children curses like you have never seen.
That's right.
It puts a holy fear in me.
Yeah.
And
they're picking the flaws out of this man that God has chosen.
Right. And you don't look for a perfect person. You look for the one God's chosen.
How scary is it that she is calling Donald Trump the chosen one?
Yeah, well, that's not surprising to me. This whole thing about the curses of people who criticize Donald Trump, they're taking things to new heights here.
Your children and their children and you will be cursed if you question Donald Trump, the chosen one.
Cursed for generations if you criticize the chosen one.
Well, there's other audio of her. Here is earlier.
She's not a Christian.
Yes.
Clearly that's not her, but that woman's name, by the way, is Mary Colbert.
Mm-hmm.
And that is alarmingly paranoid and weird. That Donald Trump is the chosen one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is this, The Matrix? What is happening?
Well, I think that she likely has just an amazing self-esteem because do they follow her around during the day and every time she speaks they say, yeah.
Oh.
She's not a Christian.
All right. Listen, what are you going to do, man? Evangelical Christian. Listen, when I shit on evangelicals, it's not just randomly shitting on Christians or generally shitting on Christians. Evangelical Christianity it's a white phenomenon almost exclusively. It is It is a bastardization of everything Jesus taught, everything Jesus stood for. They're prosperity freaks. They're calling the winners and losers. Donald Trump is chosen by God. Jesus reached down and put his hand on Donald Trump's head. But he summarily rejected Obama, who actually cared about social justice. He actually cared about the things that Jesus would have cared about.
Yeah, it's like they're the chosen one if they're the Republican.
Yes. Weird. I wonder if there's a connection, Brittany.
Oh, no, I'm sure there's some segment we can dig up where she was doing the exact same thing about Barack Obama.
Yeah.
President Obama. If you criticize President Obama, you will be cursed for generations
so will your
to come.
children, and so will their children. It's going to be real bad.
Taking care of biz. Terry Crews.
Terry Crews, the former, I think he was in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He's the funny guy. He was in Idiocracy.
Yeah.
He was President Macho Camacho or whatever.
Yeah, I think he's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
So he came out during the Me Too movement and revealed that he had been sexually assaulted and...
by a dude at an after party.
Yeah, and he has continued to kind of be a force, this very masculine, muscly man who can speak openly about his own experiences, but also he has started speaking about the problems within masculinity and how it can impact women.
You know, people have to understand that masculinity can be a cult. And when I say cult, it's no different than David Koresh. It's no different than Jim Jones. It's funny because when you don't even hear, you know, a best way to example is slavery. Is when slaves were yelling about, oh my God, I'm being beaten, I'm being hurt. The master would look at like, I don't understand what you're saying. You don't, you know, it's almost like there's this disconnect, like they won't see pain. There's a lack of empathy. And this is what happens with men and women. Men who are in this cult, you can say as a woman they talk, but a guy is not looking at you as even all the way human. And this is what you have to understand. There's a humanity issue here. You're like, why don't you hear me? Why don't you see my feelings? And they're like, but you're not all the way human. You're here for me. You're here for my deal. And it's real. I got a perfect example. Now, first of all, I have to tell you, I am guilty. I am guilty. I believe, simply because I was a man, that I was more valuable than my wife and the other women in my life. This is something that, you know, men have been sold a bill of goods for a long, long time. Let me tell you, when I was in football, I remember one thing the guys would do is go to the strip club. And the guys go to the strip club, and you sit there, and here's the woman, and the whole thing. And once she starts talking about she has kids, or if she starts talking about anything in her life, it's like, stop. Because you're becoming a human before my eyes. I don't want you to be a human. I want you to be an object. I want you to be something pretty to look at. But as you talk, you're making things too real for me. So scary.
So I think that this is particularly profound, again, because it is coming from Terry Crews, someone who is like a buff, masculine man, like what other men would consider.
Right. Kind of the standard for masculinity.
Yeah, and from other men's perspective.
Yes.
And so to hear him speak on this, I think it would be influential for other men to hear it coming from him. I don't know.
Listen, I'd love to hear more talk about how strip clubs are fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Strip clubs are weird and gross.
Mm-hmm.
Liberals are they're gonna freak out about that, but they're fucking weird and gross. That's gross.
Well,
anyway.
well, and I liked hearing him talk about that because he said that they were going there and they just wanted to see these women as objects and treat them as objects. And as soon as they started trying to paint themselves as anything other than an object, there was no interest there. And so I think that is a good conversation for men to begin to have with other men.
Yeah.
But I just think it's powerful coming from him, but
I think it demonstrates that it is difficult for women across many different disciplines, not just exotic dancing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In the corporate world, in academia, it is a struggle that masculinity gets prioritized.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. And I actually came across this tweet. It is a screenshot from a handbook for teacher assistants for the University of Maryland Department of Computer Science. And this is a screenshot from the handbook that they give to teaching assistants to basically give them advice about how to do their job.
They're going to fuck this up, aren't they?
And there is a section here for female TAs specifically, okay? And this is what it says.
Oh, no.
Your students may experience some difficulty accepting you fully in a scientific field, which they may, for whatever reasons, associate with male activity. Male students especially, but not exclusively, may try to challenge your authority, trip you up, or, more subtly, try to compromise your status by flippancy or suggestive remarks. Friendly, but firm and repeated assertion of your competence and authority to direct their study of computer science, asserted through deed and attitude as well as through word, will probably take care of the situation. Such challenging behavior should fall off rapidly. That such assertion should even be necessary is admittedly annoying, but be patient.
Seriously. Making a million excuses for the dicks, the male assholes who are going to be challenging this person who is in a position of authority.
Mm-hmm.
But, you gotta be really nice to them.
Mm-hmm.
These fellas just don't get it. But if you be really sweet, because let me tell you something. They're not writing this to men, TAs.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, listen.
Mm-hmm.
If your fellow bros, if they don't respect your authority, you better just be very respectful.
Mm-hmm.
Just a gentle correction.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to come across as bossy.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to do that.
Yeah. Well,
so maybe University of Maryland should be asshole of today.
They do have a message for male TAs, and it involves female students that may try to capitalize on the male-female dynamic to their own advantage.
Are you fucking kidding me?
No. Most of these attempts are fairly transparent unless you are particularly susceptible to flirtatious or provocative behavior. Lest you be too flattered, it's very likely that it is the lure of your position, or even more callously, a grade that they're after, not you. It's like in an official document that they give to people. It's truly, truly remarkable, is it not?
What are your guesses? Audience, you're included. What are your guesses? What are the chances that a woman wrote that document?
Mm-hmm.
There's not a goddamn chance a lady wrote that.
Mm-hmm.
That is all dude all day long.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. So they're teaching the women that they need to be patient because even though they're constantly having to prove that they're worthy, that they're educated, that they are an authority figure.
And saying to a dude,
right.
Hey, if someone's coming on to you, she's just a skeevy little slime who's trying to get over on you.
Right. So.
God damn.
Yeah, so there's still obviously a lot of work to do in this area.
You think.
And I'm happy that Terry Crews is continuing this conversation and engaging particularly with what it means to be masculine, because right now the most prominent figures talking about masculinity are people like Jordan B. Peterson.
Right.
And I think that it's important to hear from people like Terry Crews who are approaching this in a nuanced way from the perspective of someone that has had negative experiences with sexual assault and being a very masculine figure that men respect or look up to or
just
whatever.
like Jordan Peterson. Super, super masculine.
Mm-hmm.
With his fucking number 2 pencil arms. Ugh. Anyway, let's end it there before I get in trouble. thank you for joining us to help us move the conversation forward episode by episode. We love you guys. Bringing us 400 episodes is
beautiful.
God, it really,
we're very thankful.
We cannot thank you enough. We love you. We appreciate you. If you'd like to sound off, you want to help us move the conversation forward, get your voice on the record, challenge us, talk to us, whatever. 657-464-7609. Of course, you can always email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubt@dollemore.com. We would love to have you follow us on the Twitter at Brittany E. Page, at Dollemore. Go rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. All of that helps the show very much. But most of all, we just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the family. And we'll see you next time.
Yes.
For Brittany Page, I am Jesse Dollemore, and this has been I Doubt It. And we're in the room.
And I see people dropping off. Little do they know that we stay for a little bit.
We do stay.
And chat with you guys and take your questions, your comments on the show or anything else. There's a little bit of a delay. We mention that every time. But for those of you who may be joining us for the first time, there is a little bit of a delay. So be patient with us if you ask us a question. Yes? I think that Jesse is reading the comments right now.
Oh, you're talking to me?
I was.
Oh, sorry.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was. Jesse, I don't think you ever care about getting in trouble for talking at what right wing. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I think that when I listen, I try to be a decent human being, and making fun of someone's little tiny pencil arms isn't the act of a decent human being. It's a low blow.
Yes.
Brittany doesn't appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I shouldn't do it, but sometimes it's just fucking irresistible when it's a guy like Jordan Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
Here's the 400 more episodes. Misha, thank you. I don't see why that won't happen. We love doing the show. We love communicating with you guys, and yeah, good times. Why does the media insist on helping Trump's false statement of no collusion? When does it's going too fast now. When does a meeting when attempted secret communication with Russia not collusion? Yeah, well, there's clearly collusion. The problem is the Democrats kind of latched on that collusion term. There's no crime in collusion. It's called conspiracy. And I think that there is ample evidence of conspiracy to work with Russia, whether it be official people within the campaign or people who were jettisoned early so they could work this back channel. That's not going to be a good excuse relative to the investigation, I believe. So I feel your pain. Any others?
It's going really fast, so I'm trying
Invest in a punching bag. We had a listener send us some stress balls one time. They had smiley faces on them.
Yeah.
We should bring those in the studio.
Yeah.
Hey, Jesse and Brittany, thank you for another show. Congrats on your 400 episodes. Love to see the fuckery unfold, but also deliver an amazing conversation that we need in our lives. A Scary Navarro.
That's lovely.
Very lovely.
Thank you.
Burt Reynolds. What
Hi,
do y'all
Burt.
think about medical marijuana having a really good chance of passing in fucking Oklahoma, of all places, in 2 months? I think it's a step in the right direction. Of course, we would want just ultimate legalization, but it's a step in the right direction. I think even right now, the play in Congress that Schumer is attempting to decriminalize isn't ultimately what we want, but it certainly is a step in that right direction. Look, I don't smoke weed. I mean, very, very rarely do I smoke weed. Like maybe every couple of years or something, and every time I do it, I'm like, "Fuck, why did I do this?"
Mm-hmm.
But it's still, it's a backwards idea that it should be a Schedule 1 drug, like with heroin and cocaine and
Yeah.
Come on,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Cheers. Gosh, I can't remember when I started listening. Yeah, it's been a long time, Amy.
We're busy, but did we ever go see Black Panther? We haven't yet. We haven't been to the movies for months.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Yeah.
We do want to see it.
Yeah.
But we're also not giant superhero movie people.
Yeah.
Those movies. Like, I haven't seen all the Avenger movies.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the new Spider-Man movies.
We'll see it, though. We'll see it. It's just that we're turds.
So, the Real Talk with Big Walt. Jesse and Britt, I hope you two... I know you two are busy, but did you... Oh, that's the question. I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I was just reading along, man.
All right.
Well done. Limited editing for you, Jesse. Well, I'm glad you noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 points, and one is just turning the volume down on that last clip because it was really loud.
Yeah, thank you, Zach.
Thanks for... What are the best chicken tenders? What is happening right now?
Well, I mean, we need to get Amy's opinion on that, but this is obviously just based on our own experience with what is local. But I would have to say Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's has really great chicken tenders.
You have to have them cooked extra crispy.
Extra crispy, though.
Yeah.
Extra crispy.
Misha C., I know for a fact that Michael Cohen knows where the bodies are buried. Donald Trump is the definition of shady businessman here in New York City. I think that it's a slight bridge too far to say that you know for a fact. But if I was a betting man, and I'm a betting man, I would bet on that for sure.
A Quiet Place. Why haven't you seen A Quiet Place?
We haven't seen any movies recently.
Yeah, we haven't seen any movies, but also I'm concerned about seeing A Quiet Place because of the noise in the movie theater.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's essentially a silent film, and
Yeah.
I don't want to have to listen to the chomping and the slurping and the pistachio shell dropping. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So I think that maybe it's not the best unless I can go in the morning when no one is there.
It would make for a great intro segment to one of the next shows after we watched it, though.
Yeah.
We love bitching and complaining about movie theater.
It's one of our
action.
favorite
Yeah.
intros to do. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm all about Marvel. Still haven't seen Black Panther. It got solid reviews, Black Panther.
Yeah, it did.
Like the highest rated, I think, or something.
Yeah, we need to see it. We'll see it. We will. We suck. People behaved in my movie. Well, Bernt, you live in a different place, okay? Because that does not happen here. And we also have bad luck.
Is Bernt still in Utah, or is he
I do not
out
know.
in Oklahoma now?
I
talking about
do
Oklahoma?
not know.
Huh.
Are we really talking about chicken tenders? Someone asked, okay? We just give what the people want, okay? That's what we do.
Now you're not too late, Kim Jong Orangina. You can go back. It's like a DVR. In fact, it'll be as soon as we're done, it processes, and then like in 2 or 3 hours,
it posts.
It'll post up again. I have to post it, but it'll post.
Yeah.
Then you can watch the whole thing all by yourself. No need for all the pesky chatting. Plus, you can listen to it when I post the episode audio-wise, which will happen here in about 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's always a real good time.
Bernt says Tulsa.
Tulsa.
Mm-hmm.
Flash flood Tulsa.
There you go. Oh, message retracted.
I don't know how you do that.
I don't know.
Anyway, we're going to go because I got to get the show posted, and it is hotter than dick in this goddamn
it is very
studio
hot.
right now.
Also, HQ is starting.
HQ is starting. We love you guys. Thank you, and we will see you next time. I guess next Sunday. Bye.
Bye.